Welcome to episode 21 of VR Roundtable. I am Anthony, and of course, I'm joined by Gary and Steve. And guys, we're old enough to drink a beer now, 21. Gary, let's send it over to you in the UK. How's everything going on over there?
It's okay over here at the moment. Yeah, everybody knows, I've probably mentioned it on the last few episodes where I've been reorganizing my office around a little bit. And since I've been doing that, I've been having some minor tracking problems with the Vive controllers, specifically whichever one I seem to have in my left hand. I seem to be getting some problems with that. So I've just been experimenting a bit with blocking some reflective surfaces and stuff like that, and it seems to be getting a lot better. Actually, I bought some of these blinds, this blind here, and I've got one that covers the monitors and a little CRT TV I've got over to my right, and that's made everything absolutely rock solid. So if you are having any little problems with tracking on the Vive, I definitely recommend looking at these reflective surfaces, because with the orientation of my office how it was, I had pretty much exactly the same as what I've got now, but they were in different positions and I had no problems. But then since I moved it around, obviously everything's in a slightly different position, and it's causing some little problems really. So yeah, it really does help. So yeah, check that out if you're having any problems.
All right. And Steve, how's everything going on over there in Louisville?
Everything is going good. Can't complain. I haven't rearranged anything, and so I don't have any problem solving that I've done this week. So things are just going and cruising along. How about you?
All right. Well, here in Sacramento, we have our rivers are like super high. I don't know if you guys know that California has kind of been in a drought for a number of years, but I think the drought's pretty much over now, because we've just been getting hammered with rain. And in Sacramento, there's 3 major rivers, and I live really close to the Sacramento River. And that thing is incredibly high, man. I drive by there and you look over at the river and it is, the boats that are docked over by there are like way up high. And I'm thinking, man, and then last night it was just raining, like just coming down hard. And all these people in Sacramento that don't have flood insurance are buying flood insurance like last minute. And we don't have flood insurance and we're pretty close to this river, but oh well, we're just going to take our chances.
That sounds terrifying. If it's got it gets into your garage where you've got all your VR stuff. Jesus.
Yeah, and I usually leave a lot of my VR stuff kind of sitting on the ground. I'm going to have to start raising it up and putting it up high. But
oh no, that's just immersion. He can play the gallery or a game that's set in a swamp. Man, that's 4D. It's full immersion. Like, yeah, you should go for it. Play in a flood.
Always look on the bright side.
All righty. Well, so guys, this week what we're going to do is the last couple of episodes that we've had, we handle a ton of news stories, and it's really fun to cover all those news stories. And then we get to our What You've Been Playing segment, and we find that we're always kind of rushed for time. We don't have enough time to cover everything. So what we're going to do this week is we're going to cover a couple of big news stories and then kind of get into the What You've Been Playing. And then if we still have some time left over, we can double back and cover some of the other news stories that we didn't get to. So that's kind of how we're going to do it this week. So a little light on the news in the beginning, and we'll see how we are for time. Okay, so obviously the number one news story this week is the results from the court case. And it's weird when you kind of look at the outcome of this, because if you look at the headlines, you'll see Oculus has to pay $500 million to Zenimax, and it's kind of like Zenimax won, Oculus lost. You know, when you look at some of these titles of the news stories, and then you see some other titles, and it's more like, no, Oculus didn't really lose. It's more of like a little slap on the wrist kind of a thing. Gary, I'm going to kick it over to you. When you think about this settlement and the $500 million and kind of how it's broken down, what were your thoughts when you first saw that news, when it first came across the wire?
I thought it was a little bit more than I was expecting. As I've said on a previous show, I always thought that the Pop Zenimax would get something from this case, but $500 million seems like a lot of money. And, you know, we're going through this stage now where Oculus are saying certain things. I mean, their response immediately after the case was the fact that how the heart of the case was how it was to do with the stealing of trade secrets, and they were saying that the jury ruled in their favour on that particular point. And then you had Zenimax obviously capitalising on the fact that they'd got this $500 million awarded to them. So it's when I'm looking at this from a distance, it seems like a little bit excessive to me. But then again, we don't know all the little details that went into this. And obviously, going back through the past week or so, we see things from John Carmack that John Carmack was talking about in a response to this. He posted quite a long tirade on his Facebook page about how the expert for Zenimax would have been viciously mocked by the internet based on his analysis of what was going on in there. And then obviously we had Zenimax counteracting that. So there's a lot of toing and froing going on at this stage. But my first reaction was that I was a little bit surprised at the amount that was awarded to Zenimax based on this.
Yeah, Steve, when we look at this and you consider this $500 million, at first when you hear 500 million, you're like, wow, you know, Zenimax actually came out pretty nice in this thing. But when you examine the 500 million, the way that they got to that figure, it's kind of interesting because it's almost like Zenimax was suing Palmer Luckey specifically and Brendan Arieb specifically. And it's like, oh, Palmer Luckey has to pay 150, or Brendan Arieb has to pay 150 million, and Palmer Luckey has to pay this. And then I guess Facebook in general has to pay this. That's kind of weird to me. I don't know if, like, is Palmer Luckey going to have to dip into his own pockets? Or is it, it's kind of weird. Steve, did you see any of that, and what's your thoughts on that aspect?
It is my understanding that Palmer and Arieb, unless they appeal, are going to have to dip into their own pockets for sure. So yeah, they were defendants just as Oculus was, and the only thing I can think to that is probably because some of the events or some of the issues that took place before there was an Oculus. You know, so it's like you can't go back in time and retroactively apply a company to something that wasn't a company yet, even though, you know, it was Luckey himself. So that's the only thing I conclude. We don't have a lot of details. Well, I shouldn't say that. The full postings are probably out there if you want to pore over, you know, pages and pages and pages of court documents. You know, I'm sure some of the technical details are still sealed, but so, you know, I haven't done that. Though about that though, you know, the ruling as a whole, I think Oculus is probably happy. Like if they can bury this, and if Zenimax doesn't appeal, they probably aren't going to appeal. I would hope, and you know, because they're on the hook for what, 300 million. If this goes away for 300 million, I think they'll take that and be as happy as you can be having to pay out 300 million. So that's the way I look at it. Yeah, 500 million is a lot of money. And I go back, you know, you got the, you know, you got the letter of the law and the spirit of the law. And, you know, the letter is what it is, and it's been ruled based on that. In spirit, though, I personally have issues because some of the things listed, I don't feel Zenimax was doing anything with it. And that kind of bothers me. You know, I'm not defending what Carmack or Palmer did, but you know, some of the things, it was I believe some of the time warp technology was listed. There's very few specific pieces of technology that I remember reading, and not sure that comes into it with Doom and VR or any software. So some of these are inherent to a platform and to a piece of hardware. And I still have a little taste in my mouth that maybe Zenimax was just, you know, lawsuit trolling a little bit. And I believe at one point their CEO or current CEO was a lawyer. So, you know, I don't want to misstate facts. I didn't go and read the wiki page background on some of these people. So I'm just kind of paraphrasing and trying to get my point across. But you know, I think it's a win for Oculus as a whole, even though they quote unquote lost. I think they'll take this and turn around and you know, look look forward, and this isn't going to bury Oculus by any means.
One thing to be curious about is Oculus has said that they're going to try to appeal this decision, even though it wasn't as harsh as it could have been. They're still going to try to appeal this decision. And then Zenimax supposedly said that they might try to seek an injunction to stop the sale of Rifts. And supposedly the code that the Rift runs on would have to be changed a little bit before sales of Rifts could resume. And an injunction would be huge, but I don't know if that's actually going to happen or if it'll be allowed or all that type of thing. And then, of course, the appeal. And one other tiny little tidbit I wanted to mention is during this case, one of the things that we heard about is Rage. You know that game Rage, like the id Software game Rage, right? And there was some talk about this Rage code and stuff. And I wonder if that's ever going to somehow leak out, kind of like the Doom 3 BFG, and maybe we'll be able to play some Rage in VR.
Yeah,
but,
maybe.
We'll see what happens with that.
One thing I just want to quickly mention as well is the fact that I worry a little bit about how this has affected Oculus's image overall. Not necessarily for people that have been following the case from the very beginning, but I was looking at the BBC News website a couple of days ago, and they reported on this. It was sort of one of the top 10 news stories, actually, it turned out, because I guess because it mentioned Facebook. But they reported it as being that Oculus having to award this to Zenimax for stealing their VR technology. Now, that's a distortion of the truth, really, when we look at it. But I mean, I suppose factually they can state that, and that's fine. But we all know that the fact that the VR technology that Zenimax were working on was really John Carmack while he was working at Zenimax. So it's John Carmack's technology. Now, like you two, I'm not excusing what John Carmack did if he did do this the way they're saying. But it's a slight distortion of the truth, and it can paint Oculus in a far worse light than I think they deserve, really, in this particular case.
Yeah, we talked about last week about how Oculus might move, or Facebook might move away from the Oculus name, and this could possibly be a part of this as well. So let's kick it over to Steve. Steve, I know you have a story. A PlayStation related story, news that just came out very recently. Why don't you go ahead and update us about that?
I believe this came out, was announced yesterday, but in the upcoming 4.5 firmware, there's a beta that just released, and unfortunately I am not in the beta program, but one of the things the beta does enable is 3D Blu Ray support within the PlayStation VR. And I think last show was when we talked about the YouTube stuff, maybe the show before. So Sony's moving in the right direction. I think this is kind of still big news because as far as I'm aware, you still cannot play an actual 3D Blu-ray on any of the PC units. And I think that hinges on the difference. 3D isn't just 3D when it comes to this video tech. The way a 3D Blu-ray works is very different than a over-under or a side-by-side video. So my guess is that Sony was able to do it because of the 120 hertz, the Vive being 90 hertz, and I guess the Rift is also 90 hertz. This 120 hertz lets them do a 60 frames per second per eye, and it lets them effectively toggle each eye off and on. So again, I haven't checked it out because I'm not in the beta, and as soon as the firmware updates push to the masses, I will check it out. But I think it has the opportunity of being some of the highest fidelity video that we'll be able to observe in VR. Now, I'm guessing that I don't know if it's going to do the whole like look around you, dome thing. It may be in cinema mode where you still get the 3D effects as if you're watching a screen. So it'll be interesting to check some of that stuff out.
Yeah, it's interesting that we bring this up because I remember back in the days of 3D TVs, I was actually an early adopter for 3D TVs, and I kind of got really into 3D. And the meant to be seen forums where like Palmer Luckey met Carmack and all that, I was actually on those forums back in like 2011 and stuff, talking to different guys, but I wasn't interested in VR. I didn't even know that was really coming. But trying some of these 3D movies on your headset where it's perfectly going to each eye, it might really look good. So I am curious to definitely see how that looks. Although the 3D Blu-ray market has kind of, I mean, it's still there. You can get 3D Blu-rays, but you kind of have to special order them and stuff like that. You can't just go to Redbox and rent a 3D Blu-ray. It doesn't really seem to be like that. But yeah, I'm curious to check it out. Okay, so our next story, let's kick it over to Gary. Gary, I think you had a story, something about Oculus that's going on right now.
Yeah, well, I know that people, the problem is with reporting things about Oculus is the fact that none of us on this show actually own an Oculus Rift, as much as we'd probably like to own one. But I know that over the past couple of weeks, there's been problems with the Rift touch controllers and their tracking, and everybody who owns an Oculus Rift with touch has been waiting for an update that has been said to be coming for quite a while, actually, to improve tracking. And there was a few days ago, because it was supposed to be coming before the end of January, but unfortunately they had to delay it a couple of days, and it's finally come out now. So I think, well, there's sort of mixed reports from this. I just wanted to mention this, bring this up on the show, because everybody was hoping so much that this would cure all the problems that the touch controllers were having on tracking, and not everybody's been experiencing it. It depends the kind of setup that you actually have. And you know, over the past few weeks, Oculus have been putting things on their website, sort of instructions on how to connect the sensors to the computer, utilizing USB bandwidth in various ways to maximize the performance of these sensors and the tracking overall. So a lot of people have been following this and trying and getting varying results from this. But with this latest update, it does turn out that some people, not everybody, some people are reporting quite a big improvement, but some people are also saying that certain things are actually worse. Now, there was a straw poll that was put on the Oculus Reddit earlier on today, or yesterday it might have been, and just to gauge some kind of responses to how this update has affected people. And it's difficult to gauge these results because there's so many configurations of how the sensors can be set up. You can have a 2 sensor setup, you can have a 3 or 4 sensor setup, and with each of these they had a result within this straw poll just to see how it was affecting people. Now, with the 3 sensors, 21% overall, which was the highest percentage of any answer, we're reporting worse performance after this update, which is the 1.11 update from Oculus. But with two sensors, generally, this was the second top result. 2 sensors, generally, people were getting better results after this update. And then again, back down with 4 sensors, it was going back down again to worse results. So I think it varies a lot with the type of configuration. It's not good news, but I just hope they get all of these things resolved eventually, and everybody with an Oculus Rift can enjoy room scale. The problem I have at the moment with all this, and I don't want to keep comparing the room scale abilities of the Vive and the Oculus Rift, but to me, everything that Oculus is doing at the moment, they seem to just be focusing on their own weaknesses. Now, I think, and I'll probably get a little bit of backlash from this, I think objectively we can say that in terms of room scale, the Vive's tracking system is objectively better than the Oculus Rift. Now, that's not to say that the Vive is necessarily a better VR system overall. It depends what you're after. I just worry that Oculus are playing more into their weaknesses at the moment by driving home this room scale. I know at the moment they're calling it experimental, but they really need to play into their strengths more. You know, the Oculus Rift is perfectly, it can be one of the better systems for seated or standing experiences, depending on how you want to play your games. So there's nothing to say that they can't play more towards that market and more towards their strengths, rather than try and competing unnecessarily, in my opinion, against a system which really has better tracking for room scale. And I'm not saying that within time it can't be matched by the Oculus Rift, but I just worry that they're focusing in the wrong area, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, I kind of wonder. Excuse me, sorry about that. I kind of wonder about the Rift 2, which I think is probably going to come next year, I would imagine. And are they going to stick with this constellation type tracking? Or are they going to go with something completely different? I don't know, Steve, do you have any thoughts on that?
I think they'll kind of have to, or really fix Constellation. You know, room scale is this thing that people want. To Gary's point, and I think you're absolutely right, them not focusing on their strength, and their strength is their software. They are bankrolling a lot of games, and that is the one issue I have with the Vive. You know, Sony's doing a decent job as well at creating games. The HTC Vive, like, I see all this great hardware tech, but I'm still missing this huge software future. And Oculus has shown, you know, they've shown some of their cards there. They're like, hey, we got Robo Recall coming. Oh, and by the way, you get it free. And we got this game, and you know, all these games are coming out, and they look like, you know, high production value, polished games. And we know that Valve is making games, plural, for the Vive, and we know that Fallout 4 is supposedly coming hopefully sometime this year. Like, outside of that, there isn't this huge list of Vive games, and I think that Oculus should definitely leverage that. You know, just push the software angle, because, you know, if we did a State of the Union on these 3 headsets, you know, that's my number one thing. It's like, we have the hardware now, and it kind of is what it is with all 3 platforms. Now is the time for games. We've had these units for these units have been out, the Oculus and the Vive, since April, whatever, since spring of last year, and now is the time for games. We're coming up on the 1-year anniversary. Let's show me the money. And I think Oculus is technically doing a better job of that, and they need to focus on that more.
Yeah, I want to hear more about Fallout 4. Like, we have not heard anything about Fallout 4, and Fallout 4 is kind of like the savior, you know, for HTC Vive and for kind of PC VR in general. Everybody on PSVR is real happy. They have Resident Evil 7 now, so they have this example that they can point to. We have Resident Evil 7. You know, it's a big time game, and the Vive. Right now, I mean, what do people point to? They point to like Arizona Sunshine and Raw Data. It doesn't really have that big game that you can point to, and Oculus does have a lot of those coming. Arctica 1, our most wanted VR game of 2017, Lone Echo, Robo Recall, all that stuff. Okay, so I have one more little story I wanted to get into, and then we're going to switch over to what you've been playing. But I did want to cover this last story in case we don't get any more news later. Okay, so in the UK, PlayStation UK, the head of PlayStation UK, actually, Warwick Light, which is a very interesting name. Sounds like a Harry Potter character. Warwick Light he was in a recent interview with GamesIndustry.biz, and he mentioned how VR basically represents the innovation that's coming from Sony, and that VR has huge potential. One of his quotes is, "That should help us address this life cycle. It is plausible in the future that the console becomes a peripheral for VR rather than the other way around." And so basically what he was saying with this is that in future years, instead of the PlayStation VR being thought of as this peripheral that you buy for your PlayStation, it's going to be the other way around. You're going to buy PlayStation VR, and if you want to upgrade maybe that PSVR experience to a higher end experience, then you go ahead and buy this higher end PlayStation hardware to pair to it. But that it's going to kind of be a reversing of the roles. And if this is true, like if they truly believe this internally at Sony, this is really huge, because everybody's been wondering over the last couple of months, like, what's going on with Sony? They're not advertising as much. Where are these bundles? You know, all this stuff. And we're starting to find out that, you know, they were just having some problems. More bundles are coming. They're going to start advertising now that they finally have something to sell. And so everything's kind of coming together, and seeing this quote from Warwick Light about how they're thinking long term, this gives me a lot of hope for the future, that Sony knows that VR is huge. This is the future. I truly believe it. We're going to talk about Resident Evil 7 a little bit later. And man, I mean, there are some things I've seen in that game. And this is on PS4, you know. So just imagine what the future can hold for that. But anyway, I just wanted to bring that up real quick. And now let's go ahead and switch over to what you've been playing. And why don't we go ahead and start off with Steve? Steve, what have you been up to lately in VR?
Well, last week I came into it thinking I was going to have a chance to talk about it, but we ran out of time. So in our top games of 2017, I had two games that had come out prior to our last show. One of them was a surprise. The one was Resident Evil 7, and the other one was Knockout League. And when I saw the trailer for that game, and that's why I put in there, just inherently, it immediately drew me back to the Punch Out, and I felt like, oh, this has to be one of my top games. This just looks like so much fun. So it's stealthily released. There was no notice, no anything. It's like, boom, now this game's out. Unfortunately, it is out in early access, and that bummed me quite a bit when I found that out. So it's $18 in early access, and what it comes with is you get 4 fighters, and you don't really get any of that training mode. In the trailer, you saw the guy hitting the speed bag and all that stuff. That's not in it in early access. You get a short kind of training session with the old retired boxer, and then you can fight any of the 4. The 4 characters they give you. They gave you the basically the 4 that you've seen in the trailer: the octopus, the pirate, the girl in the tiger outfit, and then the guy that kind of looks like almost like a little bit like Mike Tyson but with a mohawk. So it knocked me down a peg, and I was a little less enthusiastic about it, but I had to give it a go anyway. And the game is fun. I'm really happy with it. I have no qualms about picking this up in early access. They're talking about releasing more fighters and eventually the training mode. So I'm happy with it. And so to kind of talk about the game a little bit. It's what you would expect. You're standing there in your play space, and you're holding your Vive controllers, and you're punching, and they really borrowed off of the Punch Out formula. I mean, this is a straight ripoff, but it's okay. It's a good straight ripoff. I'm happy with these kind of ripoffs because the formula for Punch Out worked really well. It's not realistic boxing, and in no way is it realistic boxing, so it can't really compete with the thrill of the fight. But you're in there, and you're standing face to face with this big character or smaller character, and they're in front of you, and it's convincing, and you can look all the way around, and you got the full 360 ring around you. However, there really isn't any locomotion, and that's another element they borrowed from Punch Out. You didn't really move around in Punch Out, and you don't here. You can move your character and dodge punches and take a step left, take a step right, but you won't find yourself going from one corner of the ring to the other corner of the ring. So for the most part, you spend the game face to face with the person you're fighting, and you got to recognize their patterns and look for their tells of when they're gonna punch, and you duck. And when you duck in like in real life, and it's a workout, or you quickly sweep left or sweep right, and then you got to hit back. Like the window to strike them back for a counter is small and accurate. And I can play 4 or 5 rounds, and by that time I am dripping in sweat. I'm getting sweat on my Vive lenses, and my mask is falling off my face because of it. And I've been sore after playing it. So I'm currently the first box is kind of simple. The second one, the girl, it was a challenge. It took me like 5-6 times to eventually figure out all of her patterns. And then the third one is a pirate, and he's got this parrot that sits over his shoulder, and you got to listen for the parrot, because the parrot will kind of, in a squawky parrot voice, will say right, left, right, and you hear that, but then you have to do the opposite, because it's his right, his left, and his right. So for you, it's left, right, left. So it's fun, it's Punch Out in VR, and it's pretty well polished, and it works. I do recommend this game based on that, and if they add 4 more fighters and a training mode, it'll be easily worth its money.
What did you think about like the sound quality of it? Did you notice that being in the ring and the noises and stuff, was there anything special about the sound?
I don't remember there being anything special. There was some sound. Nothing felt out of place, so it wasn't like eerily silent. And there's an announcer, and they all have their fancy intros. It's more like a WWE type intro. Things are really kind of elaborate and overproduced. So it felt okay. When you look out at the audience, it's kind of dark, and I think they made it so they don't have to render too much of a crowd. But it's dark, and it's kind of like how it would be in like the MGM Grand in Vegas. You know, when they're doing a fight, you know, they darken most of the crowd and really light up the ring, and they duplicate that here. So you can see some like camera flashes, I believe, and you know, some cartoony audience characters, but there's really not a lot to see there. And there is some sound, so I never felt out of place, but I never felt like there was anything special about it either.
Alrighty. Any other things you've been playing? I mean, I know obviously you've been playing Resident Evil 7 a little bit, probably, but
into that, but we can wait till you're ready to talk about it. So the other game that I've been playing, and I know you guys have played, or at least I know Gary for sure has played, is Ropes and Dragons. The developer of the game was kind enough to send us a key, and this game, yeah, I think, you know, Gary's probably spent more time with it, so he'll probably describe it better than me. But it is like a mobile iPhone or iPad game, but in VR, and that's not and it's not a bad thing. It's simple. You know, the graphics are simple but clean. You know, everything looks crystal clear and sharp. But the crux of the game is it's kind of like a puzzle game. There will be a little dragon, and there will be a piece of candy, peppermint candy, that's somewhere above him or her, and you point your Vive controller at a rope, and you just kind of click the trigger, and I think all the other buttons do the same thing. But then you detach the rope, and the piece of candy will fall, and it'll either make its way to the dragon or not, and that's how you pass a level. So it's a series of multiple levels that you're just solving these short little puzzles, but it works. Like, I never would have thought that what is essentially a mobile style game would work in VR, but it does, and you know, it's kind of fun.
Yeah, I played this one as well, and this is the thing. For me, it was something that I didn't think it'd work as well as it does, this particular game, Ropes and Dragons. But yeah, like you say, Steve, it's a mobile game within VR, and you'd think, okay, that's fine, but it's a lot more fun than you can really describe without actually trying it. And there's a certain amount of satisfaction to just cutting these ropes. It's such a simple game, such a simple mechanic. You're just cutting these ropes and getting this this sweet to this dragon that's somewhere else in the level. And it uses the thing. For me, I played through probably about half of this game within one sitting in about 25 minutes. So it's not the longest game in the world or anything. But it does have replayability to it, because it uses something similar to like in Angry Birds, where it uses this star system to rate each level. There's coins on each level that while you're getting this sweet to this dragon, you can collect these coins as well, and based on how many coins you collect during this process is how many stars you'll be awarded at the end of the level. So obviously, if you get the full 3 stars, you've done as much as you can on that level. But if you only get 1 or 2 stars, then you can go back and try the level again. And this is the thing, you can keep going back to this game. Now, it's not for everybody, obviously. It's not for hardcore first-person shooter gamers that only want that kind of thing. This is for sort of casual gamers and for younger people. I mean, I've actually done a Let's Play on this as well. It's on our YouTube channel, so you can check that out. But I do mention in that I've not actually put my kids into this game yet, but I'm pretty sure that they're going to really enjoy this one. It's a cutesy, brightly coloured game with good graphics. I mean, I'd go as far as to say they are really good graphics, actually, that suit this game style very well when you're in there, because as Steve said, they're so clear and they work so well in this format. But yeah, I think it's a great game, and I wasn't expecting to like it as much as I did.
Yeah, I played this one too, a little bit. I only tried it a little bit last night, preparing for the show today, and it's colorful. It's a simple puzzle game. You know, you're basically cutting the rope. You slice the rope, and then the treat will fall down, and it might land on a bubble, and then the bubble floats up to hit another thing, and you have to time everything. The very first stages that you're on, it's really easy. You'll get past a lot of the levels really fast. You'll be like, oh, okay, cut this rope, it swings over here, cut that rope, it swings back, you know, and it's pretty easy to work with. But then I got to the Winter Wonderland type level, basically the second major level that you get to. And I got to this one part where I was kind of stuck and I had to do it over and over again. But the nice thing about it, anytime they have a game like this where you'll have to do something over and over again, I like it when you can restart it like right away and it bam, 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 you're right into it. You don't have to wait for like loading times and all that stuff. And then the other thing is, I think this game is like maybe going to be $10. It's not out yet, but it's probably going to be about $10. So it's not like a super expensive game.
Yeah, it was released yesterday, which is the 3rd of February. So it is out now. But when I recorded the Let's Play, I didn't know exactly how much it was going to cost. But over here in the UK, it's £8.99. So I guess, yeah, over in the US, it's around sort of $10, $12, something like that. It's currently got a bit of a discount, so you can pick it up a little bit cheaper. But just to mention as well, the developer, as I say, he did send us this game, and he did give us a code for somebody as well. So I tell you what I'm going to do with this video, I'll put the caption of the code here in the video, and the first viewer to claim that code can have a free copy of the game and give it a try. Let us know what you think.
Cool beans. Okay, Steve, anything else that you wanted to cover, or is that pretty much wrap it up?
The only other thing I played, and I recorded a Let's Play earlier with my son, is there was a new update for the Playroom VR on PlayStation VR. They added a new game mode, and it's called Toy Box Shooter. I don't even remember what it's called, but basically in the game, and you know, if you're familiar with the Playroom, it's a collection of mini games. In this one, the VR, it's another asynchronous game, which is what I really love about Playroom VR is the asynchronous element of it. But in this game, the VR person is wearing is mounting a turret, and he's just shooting at these toys that are coming at him or her, and the asynchronous player, the person not wearing the mask, is controlling a character, and he's got like melee little punches, and he's helping the turret shooter to take out the bad guys. So it's a cooperative asynchronous gameplay, and there's really not too much to say about it. But me and my son, we played it for a little while earlier today, and you know, it is what it is. It's another quality little mini game in the Playroom. So and it's worth checking out.
Yeah, and it's cool that they continue to add some different things to that, and hopefully they'll continue to do that. Okay, so I'll go ahead and get into a little bit about what I've been playing, and I'm going to go ahead and start this off with Racket NX. Racket NX came out on January 31st, I believe, this week, Tuesday, and I went ahead and picked it up right away. Now, I've talked about Racket NX a number of times on the Vivecast, and then when we had this show, I've talked about it, the demo. And basically, the way I have to kind of explain this is that, man, it's a really interesting situation, this whole Racket NX thing, because I truly believe that if there was never a demo for Racket NX, if there never was a demo for this game, I would be totally amazed with the release that came out. I would be in love with it. I'd be saying all kinds of wonderful things about it. You know, I would be praising it to the high heavens if there never was a demo. And then the other thing is if there was a demo, but it was like a super short demo, me and Steve with PSVR, there's a game called Super Hypercube. And if anybody's ever played the Super Hypercube demo, it is a very short demo, but it's a good demo. It's one of those kinds of demos that is really short, and when it ends, you're like, man, I wish I could keep going. This is pretty fun. I like this, but it just gives you that really brief taste, you know, so it's not giving away the whole game. It gives you that really brief taste. And if Racket NX, if the demo was like that, I probably would be praising this to the high heavens as well. So what happened? So basically, I get this game, and I actually set up a Let's Play where I started recording, and it was my first time in the game. So whatever you guys see in that Let's Play is exactly what I saw the very first time going through. I didn't know anything about anything, and I thought, okay, let's just go through this, and everybody can go through it with me, and I'll just react to whatever happens. And so I load up the game, and I start playing the full game. And when you're in there, there's like arcade mode, forget what the other mode is, and then there's like multiplayer, and then there's like where people can set up a playlist. But as you're looking at all these different options, a lot of them, like you go to this option and it's like coming soon, you go to that option, coming soon, and then you go into the arcade mode, and there's 3 possible selections that you can make in the arcade mode. The first one, coming soon. The last one, coming soon. So you could only go to the second one. So I'm like, okay, whatever. This is early access 1. They did, they put the early access 1. They put that right there on the title. There's a reason that they put that right there on the title, to let you know that this is kind of the bare bones version of Racket NX. They hope to add a lot of stuff. Went into this arcade mode that was available, and I start playing. And the arena comes down, and I'm in the Racket NX world, and I'm looking at my paddle, and the handle of my paddle is completely different from the demo. But mostly everything else is very similar to the demo. And I'm like, oh, okay, this is kind of the same exact level as the demo. Okay, well, whatever, I'll start doing it. And I'm, hitting the ball and doing the whole thing. And when I'm hitting the ball and I'm hitting these different marks on the wall, points are lighting up, like +3, +2, +4, depending on what you're doing and what you hit. And then you hear this announcer guy, and this announcer guy is like, awesome, great. And the announcer, if you guys watch my Let's Play video, unfortunately, I had the audio of the game like super low. I've been having a little bit of technical difficulties, and this one was one that I kind of rushed on there to be available first day. And so it was just like, get it done, get it up on YouTube, and just whatever. And so my volume's a little bit low on the audio, but there is an annoying announcer that either you'll think it's funny in a really cheesy way, or you'll just be irritated by the guy. I didn't actually go into the options to see if you can turn it off or not. I'm assuming there is some way to turn it off, but I didn't actually check. But what I noticed while playing the demo is that basically and here I said the demo, and that's kind of a Freudian slip, is that I was in this game and it's basically the demo. The only thing that I noticed different from this game, there were basically 3 things that I noticed that were different. It's giving you the scores, like +3, +2. And then if you have a streak, like if you start hitting and you get a streak, like a 6 streak, 7 streak, 8 streak, they announce that and you get points for that. And that's cool, but it's pretty much the demo. And then there's these little warp areas where if you hit your ball into the warp thing, then it gets sent out in another warp thing. And they changed the way that looks. That's basically it. And so I continued to try to go through this demo. I tried to go into multiplayer. I selected multiplayer, and it seemed like it was loading up a multiplayer thing. And then I saw what appeared to be another player that was standing like 7-8 feet away from me. And then boom, it was just over. And it was like, this guy won. He got 100 points. I got 0. And I was like, what? Nothing even happened. It never even started. So there was some type of bug or something. The multiplayer didn't work. So then I went back into the arcade mode, was playing that again. And then I'm like, okay, let me go back into multiplayer, try it now. Didn't work again. So this was the very first day. The developer, One Hamza, has said that they did have some kind of bug that was screwing up with the multiplayer, but supposedly it's working fine. Ultimately, as I went through that whole thing, my attitude towards the game kind of like changed in real time. Like when I was first into it, I was like, oh, this is cool. I like this. Yeah, the announcer's kind of goofy, but I like the fact that it's doing the streaks and all this stuff. And I was kind of like, yeah, I'm into it. And then as I kept going through it, I'm like, wait, this is the only arena they have? I thought there was going to be, where's the other arenas? Where's the bigger arena where it's farther? Where's the one where it's closer to you? Where's the one where everything is green and blue? And where's the one where it's all white and yellow? Or where's the arenas? There's no background music. There's no like boss monsters that you battle at the end. I mean, it did have the snake thing that you go through in the demo. So ultimately, this is $20, and it goes back to the demo, man. They gave away the store. That demo is so good. You could just play that. I put 6 hours into that demo. You could play that demo, and you could play the demo for 45 minutes. You can just keep going. There's no timer on it. And so what I come back to is, if this was $10, this early access thing, if it was $10, I'd be perfectly happy with it. If it was 15, I'd kind of be like, it's pretty much the demo, but it's $15, not that big deal. $20 is a little bit different. When you get to the HTC Vive, Brookhaven is $20, I believe. Vanishing Realms is $20. If you're going to be $20, you better step up to the plate and have something a little bit decent. And to me, this is not $20. This is the first game I've ever refunded, and I might have pulled the trigger too early on refunding it. Because the multiplayer supposedly is working now, and people are playing the multiplayer and having fun with that. And that might, I said in my Let's Play, maybe multiplayer will be the secret sauce, and I never got a chance to try that. Now, I refunded it, but I will reserve the right to buy this back again, maybe early access too. One Hamza, if you guys watch this, please add some other arenas. I don't think it could be that hard to add some different arenas that have a little bit of a different look, to add so much more to this game. It's still a great game, and I can tell you there's brand new Vive owners that never played the demo, and then they buy this game for $20 and they're in love with it. And why wouldn't they be? Because it's a great game, but I played the demo. So I'm going to kick it over to Steve. Steve, any reactions to all this stuff I'm saying? I mean, I know you haven't tried the full version, but what is your reactions to kind of my comments on this?
No, you talked me off of buying the game. So I get what you're saying. There's really not much to debate or to really volley back and forth on it. Like they had an expansive demo, and there isn't a lot to defer it from the demo. So the $20 asking price isn't $20 for the experience as a standalone, because it's probably worth that. What they're doing is they're asking $20 for the differences between the free demo and this game, and that's probably not worth $20. I don't know if the demo is still available, so people moving forward may not be able to get the demo. Maybe they can. I just don't know. And certainly, I don't think they'll pull the demo or somehow deactivate it from our library. If that's the case, then maybe we will be buying it. But other than that, yeah, I get what you're saying. Like, it's kind of unfortunate, because I was really looking forward to the game. I really liked the demo. I didn't play it as much as you, and I don't play tennis in real life any. So, but still, that being said, I don't play tennis, and I still enjoyed this game. And I think I enjoyed this game more than Hollow Ball, and that's a game I love. So I look forward to it, and I'll keep my eye on it. And if Early Access 2 gets it right, then I'm sure I'm pulling the trigger.
Gary, any comments to my situation?
Well, yeah, I mean, it was your actual Let's Play on that game, Anthony. It was interesting to watch, because we know how much you were looking forward to this game. You've mentioned it a few times on the show, and we know that you really like this game, and I was looking forward to it as well. But watching that video, it was almost like a visual definition of disappointment, really, because you start off sort of positive about the game, and then slowly, as you realize that there's not much more to it than the demo at this stage, that's not to say it's not. I mean, it will definitely be getting updates that will improve the game and add all these things you're hoping for. But yeah, it was just an interesting video to watch, that particular one, and I hope it will improve pretty quickly, and you'll go back and pick this game up, and it'll get all the improvements you want it to get, because like you say, it's a great game, and if you've not played the demo, it's probably worth the money, but especially with the updates that will come in.
Yeah, it's definitely a case study in how demos and how long your demo is, and how much you give away in the demo can actually negatively impact the final game. And it's like, I go back to that Super Hypercube demo, incredibly short but tight, sweet, and it just gives you a little taste, and the Racket NX demo kind of gave you a full course buffet. and they just gave too much away. It was kind of like Brookhaven. The Brookhaven demo, I kind of felt the same way. And Steve, you were saying, I wonder if they'll take the demo away. Well, the Brookhaven guys, that's what they did. They realized, damn, we're giving away too much of our full game with this demo. They took that demo away. You have to go to other places to find that original Brookhaven demo. So just a case study, interesting case study in how to do a demo. So that's Racket NX, and it's a little bit on the negative side, but let's switch over to something positive. And I'm going to get into Resident Evil real quick. And of course, Steve can jump in with any comments as well as we go through this. But I'm very early in Resident Evil. And one thing I want to say is that with PlayStation VR, I really don't feel like there is this huge library of games that are coming next month and the month after that that I'm into. I know there's games coming, but other than Farpoint, I can't really think of any PSVR game that is really tempting me. So it's not like we have a ton of juicy games that are about to hit for PSVR. And the reason I bring this up is I'm kind of treating Resident Evil 7 like this candy bar, like I'm in The Walking Dead. Okay, I'm in The Walking Dead world, and I have a really nice candy bar. And you know what? I'm going to take a little bite of that candy bar, and I'm going to wrap it up and put it away for a week, and then I'm going to open it up and take another bite of that candy bar. That's kind of the way I'm playing Resident Evil 7. So I'm not trying to rush through this thing. So Steve is probably twice as far as me, or maybe even farther.
Hey, to tap into that Walking Dead, I am Carl sitting on the roof eating the can of chocolate pudding when it comes to Resident Evil 7, because part of it, I'm going on vacation next week and I'm gonna be gone for a couple of weeks, and I kind of want to wrap it up before I go because I'm gonna have a big break if I don't. But yeah, I can't get through it quick enough. So go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm kind of the opposite. Like I said, I'm kind of taking it slowly but surely. But basically, I can kind of tell you where I'm at in the game, so you'll know. Okay, so you know the one encounter that you have it's early in the game in the garage with the car and the police officer and all that. You know what I'm talking about, right? Okay, so I got past that, and then I'm into this other section where it's like Marguerite, and it's kind of like a hide and seek type thing. This lady's like coming after you, you got to hide. That's where I am. And so I'm super early in the game. I'm thinking I'm super early in the game. I barely have started it. But one thing I do want to say is I have seen something in this game that blew me away. I mean, absolutely blew me away. And the thing that I saw is that right before you get into the garage and that section, you're over by a window or a door that's in the house, and you see somebody outside and like with a flashlight and stuff. And it's this police officer, and you start talking to him, and he's outside, and he's like saying, "What are you doing in there? You know what?" And you're trying to tell him, "Help, help me. Give me a gun. I'm freaking being attacked here." And the guy doesn't really believe you. He doesn't know if you're the bad guy. And this encounter with that police officer, it's unbelievable to me how realistic this guy looks. I mean, he looks real. And then later you go and you meet him in the garage. Okay. And so you open you hit the button to open the garage door, and you see the cop car there, and you see the blue and red lights flashing, and you see like kind of wet pavement, maybe in the garage. It's kind of wet, and it just, oh man, it has a really cool look. And then this police officer guy comes walking over to you, and I'm playing this standing up. And this is why I think standing up is the way to go, because you want to be in this world. You want to be a part of this world. And this guy comes walking over to me, this police officer, and he starts talking to me, and he's like looking at me, and he, it's almost like Sega CD, like he's looking at you, and doing this stuff and reaching his arm out. And it looked so incredibly real. I have never seen a human character in VR that looked this good. Ridiculous. And this is PlayStation 4. This is not a 1080 computer with crazy RAM and the best processors and all that stuff. This is the PlayStation 4, and it looked that good. Steve, I know you saw that part What do you think? I mean, what is going on with Vive developers? Why does this human look a million times better than anything I've ever seen anywhere else?
So it goes back to something that I thought once I kind of saw the specs on the PS4 Pro. The Pro, and to clarify, you're playing on a Pro too. The hardware is inferior to a modern PC. That said, I think the PS4 Pro hardware is good enough that when you add it to the top level development, I think your end result is superior to better hardware with amateur development. I mean, it's no question, and that's what we're seeing with Resident Evil now. And there's a lot of negative comment about the graphics, and I think the graphics are some of the best I've seen in VR, but not necessarily resolution. So there's art style, there's the assets they use, the things kind of look photo real in terms of their textures and the griminess and the dirt. Like when you look at a cabinet or a wall or a mattress and it feels legitimately dirty, all of that gives it a sense of realism that, yeah, so there are times when the resolution itself isn't as great, but the graphics that are under that resolution are some of the best that I've seen in VR. And, you know, I go back to Resident Evil 1, that mansion, I know like the back of my hand. Probably to this day, I could still chart my way through that game. And I can see myself getting this way with Resident Evil 7. One of the things they've done really well is this is a very believable place. And it feels so big, but it's really kind of small. You can get from one spot to the other really fast. And it's something that feels real and tangible. And that's one of the things I'm really loving about it. You know, it's just got a high level of polish that I can't point to a lot of VR games that have done as well as this. So, you know, go ahead. You got something more to say on it, I'm sure.
Well, what I was going to say is, like, graphically, and I said this when I did a Let's Play of the demo, the opening hour demo, and there was one part of my Let's Play where I said, you know, people say the graphics are bad. And I was saying in the Let's Play, I was like, you know, sometimes the graphics are lame and sometimes they're incredible in the same game. They're lame and they're incredible. And how that doesn't make sense. How does that work? And playing the full game, it's even more obvious to me, because when you start the full game, you're in this outdoor area where you're kind of almost going through the woods a little bit, and there's trees and bushes and everything. You're not even near the house. You're like in this little forest area that you're kind of walking through at the very beginning. And in there, like if you put the headset on somebody and you put them in there, they might look around. They might be, oh, this is garbage. This is terrible. I mean, look at the aliasing, aliasing. Okay, look at the aliasing that's all over the place, shimmering. Everything is shimmering. You walk over to certain bushes and stuff, and it's just a flat piece of geometry. You know, you look on either side of it. It's like paper mache on some of the bushes and some of the little leaves and stuff. And so you'll see all of this and you'll be like, man, this game looks garbage. You know, this part. Then you get into the house and then you have an encounter with a human character that is right in your face. Like that girl, what's the girl that your girlfriend or whatever at the beginning? I forget her name.
Mia.
Huh? Mia. Okay. Yeah. So Mia, early in the game, you encounter Mia and her hair is moving around, and it's like this girl is using a very high quality shampoo. Her hair looks good. Her hair is shiny. You know, she's using some Pert Plus or something, because I mean, she looks pretty good right there.
Yeah,
you know?
She's been locked up for 3 years and probably hasn't had a shower, but her hair, man.
Oh no, she definitely had a shower that morning, because her hair looks real good. But the thing that I'm trying to get to is that if you focus on a little thing here or a little thing there, you might be like, that does not look good. But then these human encounters, and I go back to the cop, because the cop Mia is great. And when you battle the dad, basically the dad guy of the house, and he's a great character. I mean, what a perfectly played character when you deal with that guy. All the human characters that I've met, that I've interacted with, all of them are incredible. But it's that cop. Oh my God. That dude almost looks like a real human. The only difference between him and a real human is there's a little bit of Eliasing around like the edges of him, but he was like talking, and his eyes were moving, and his mouth was moving, and much props, much love to Capcom. Whoever designed that cop, you deserve a raise. That was incredible. And you know what we really need is like at Best Buy or whatever, when they have a demo station, just that segment. Just that segment where you encounter the cop and then the car driving around. I mean, it is powerful. With this game, you will have quiet moments where you're going through the house and you're going through these different hallways and you're going into this room and you're going into that room and nothing is really happening, but you're hearing some eerie noises and you're like exploring. So you have these slower moments that kind of give you a chance to kind of calm down and relax a little bit and gain your bearings. And then bam, an encounter that is crazy. Chainsaw. You know that one time where somebody chainsaws you basically to death, and the first time that happened to me, I was just like I was just in awe just watching it happen, and I just let the person chainsaw me and I just let it happen, because I was like this is just incredible. I mean, I was practically giggling to myself the whole time.
Yep. I know that scene too, and I did something similar. You know, I didn't let myself get killed. It happened naturally because I sucked at that moment. But yeah, it was, you know, I've said on some of the message boards and stuff on Reddit that I think they've designed Resident Evil 7 for VR, and I've gotten some pushback on it. What do you mean? It's just a first person game. You could have the same effect if you play it on PC with Vorpex. And I'm like, well, that's not what I mean. I'm not talking about the perspective of walking down a hallway. Yeah, you can do that with any game with Vorpex. What I'm talking about is the way they've designed, like the battles. Like when you battle, or you deal with him multiple times, but when you're dealing with Jack Baker, he's huge. He's like 6'4", 250 pounds, and this this old man that has been working hard his entire life. And when he's chasing you around the house, the design of the game is he'll grab you, spin you around, and then hit you with whatever he's trying to hit you with. That's a design thing that Capcom did because it's VR. If it wasn't in VR, he wouldn't necessarily have to go through all that. They give you a mechanism for dealing with things where you can't necessarily look behind you while you're moving forward. So I see a lot of little traces of that, and it makes me think that this is a game that Capcom made, fully intended to be VR from damn near day one. I won't say from absolutely day one, but pretty early on in the kind of the initial outlay and brainstorming of this game, they said, you know what, we're going to make it in VR. And I think it's I think it's a great game. I think everybody has to experience it. I think it's our first AAA game in VR, and it doesn't mean it's perfect, but it's something that should be on every VR enthusiast playlist. Like, even if you don't like horror games, you got to give it a shot.
The more I hear about this game, the more I really want to play it. Do we know the exclusivity period for PlayStation VR on this? Is it 12 months? Or?
Well, I'm not certain that's been stated, but like in an official capacity, but maybe it has. But that's what's been kicked around for a long time, that it has 1 year of exclusivity. The problem with that, though, is Capcom has not come out and said we are bringing it to the Vive in 12 months or the Oculus in 12 months. They are saying we could or we may. I don't think they've made the financial decision to do the port, because they have to look at it. They have to look at that point that it's going to be a Euro game, and it may not have the appeal that it has currently. Go ahead.
I was just going to say there's actually a little news blurb about how Capcom might be kind of pivoting more towards VR, almost like this was their test and it's an incredibly successful test. And now they're thinking, you know what, if we become the first big time company that truly embraces VR and truly goes after VR, maybe we could be the leaders in that field, and that this is a field that's going to continue to grow. And so that's super exciting. If they really did a 12-year exclusivity deal, I hope they got a lot of money from Sony for that. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I think they should have did 6 months, because it's just like that Tomb Raider deal. You know, when Tomb Raider was exclusive to Xbox for 1 year, did anybody, when it finally come out to PS4, did anybody give a damn? Nobody gives a damn a year later. A year is too long.
Yep. I mean, some people gave a damn, like but it wasn't the same. It didn't have that hype and that element of freshness that, you know, like, I don't know. This is the way I consume things, and I know it's what these publishers and stuff intend, but I fall for the hype, like, you know, and it's one reason why I use GameFly for so long is I want to play a game when everyone else is, and when everyone's talking about it, so I can be a part of it. It's like an event. It's like the Super Bowl. Like, you know, you could watch the Super Bowl 6 months later, but like no one's talking about it, right? Like, and it's not to that extreme, but that's a little bit how games are for me. Like, I want to be a part of the wheel of media consumption, and I want to participate. I want to be able to talk about it with people at work, and I think when good games have an exclusive period, I think it cuts those tangibles off, and there's less people talking about it at the water cooler at work the next day and stuff like that, which is a bummer.
Yep. All right. Well, those are a couple of things I've been playing. I've played a few other things, but let's go ahead and kick it over to Gary now.
Okay, well, another one, actually, I was contacted by the developer of Guided Meditation VR. So this is another one, just full disclosure. This is one that we were given for free to review as well. So just to let you know that. But now, Guided Meditation VR, it's a very passive experience. It's not a game or anything like that, but it's on the HTC Vive. And I don't know, it might be on the Oculus Rift as well. I'm not 100% on that. But basically, it gives you various environments, and there's quite a lot of environments here that you can go into, and it will play music, and then you'll have a voice speaking to you and just giving you a way. It's a guide through a meditation, and you can select various different lengths of these meditations as well. So you can go in for just a couple of minutes if you want to, or you can do 5-10 minutes as well, up to probably about 15 minutes, I think. But for me, I mean, I got this game and I tried it actually the very same day that the developer sent it to us, because I was intrigued in it. This was one that's been out for a while, although it's recently had quite a big update as well. It's got some extra environments. Now, I went into this as somebody who has never meditated before in my life. I've heard of people that do this kind of thing, but I'm not really a meditation kind of guy. So I went into this. I tried to go into this with an open mind, and I've got to say it's pretty impressive for what it is, just going in without this meditation aspect at all. The environments that you've got are very impressive. There's quite a lot there. I think there's 17, maybe 16 or 17 environments to choose from at the moment. And I presume they're adding environments all the time. I know they've just added a few more. But the thing that got me about this is the fact that you can't just, it's not just like sitting in, it's not like a panoramic photo. You actually, the environments are fully 3D, and you can actually move around the environments as well. So if you choose to meditate in a forest, for example, it places you in the middle of this forest. You've got all these trees around you. They're fully rendered trees. And you can then move around this. You can teleport around to different locations, and they're quite detailed, actually. It was a surprise to me how detailed they were, and how you could just find a little nook somewhere, somewhere that probably no other user has even been before, because you can move around quite freely, and just find a little nook next to a rock or beside this waterfall or something like this, and just position yourself there. Anywhere you choose, that's fine. And once you've chosen an environment, you then choose a different type of meditation. You can choose something like a calming meditation or a moving meditation, and various different types. And again, because I'm not this kind of person, I didn't even realize there were different types of meditations. So you do this, you choose a length of meditation, and then you can choose a different type of music as well to accompany this. And when I was going through this, I thought I'll throw myself into this. And I think this is the type of experience you've got to do that with. You've got to just sort of throw yourself into it and see what comes of it. And, it's pretty good. I've got to say, I'll go back to the environments because they're so there's not much interaction with, well, there's no interaction with the environments, you just move around them. They've been able to sort of super sample this to infinity seemingly. They're all very, very clear. They look great, all these environments, and there's ambience to them. Obviously they've tried to really go full on with this ambience and the music and just everything to relax you. So I went into this and I tried it. I've actually done 3 meditations in this, just one for a couple of minutes. And you know, if you throw yourself into it and you just let yourself go, I can definitely see the benefits of doing this. For me personally, I don't know if I'd pay for this experience, because I'm just not that kind of person, but I can certainly see the benefits of it if you're even a little bit curious about meditation. You've heard a few things about it and you're intrigued to try it. I can't see any better way to jump straight in and make this your first experience of meditation.
Hey, Gary, can I ask you a question?
I'll go ahead.
When it comes to like when I think of meditation, I think of people sitting on the ground, you know, with their legs kind of in a certain way, right? And then you're like this or whatever, you know. But yeah. I always think of them like this.
Yeah.
And how do you experience VR when your eyes are closed? I mean, aren't you supposed to like empty your mind of all thoughts? Like that's supposed to be the process. Like meditation is like to be at peace with just now and not be thinking about the past, thinking about the future. Don't be thinking about anything. Completely clear your mind, and you kind of need to close your eyes to do that. But that doesn't really work with VR too well.
No, I think that's probably the ultimate goal of meditation. But the thing about this experience is that it's guided meditation. This is probably not for people that are used to doing meditation. You know, they've been doing it for years and years, and they're going to jump into this and think it's fantastic. It's for people that just want to get into meditation. At least that's the way I perceive it as being. Because it's guided, that you have a voice telling you what to do. And there are parts, actually, it will tell you to close your eyes. You don't close your eyes the whole way through, but it will tell you certain parts to close your eyes. And then you go through a small section, it will talk to you and tell you what you should be feeling. And then it will tell you to open your eyes again. And, you know, it's difficult for me to comment on this to a certain extent, because I'll say it again, I'm just not this kind of person that would really go in for this kind of thing. But that's not to say I'm trying to do this as subjectively as possible. You know, I'm trying to make it as so that people that are interested in this kind of thing, I think this is probably one of the best ways to get into it. You know, you could buy a DVD with guided meditation. That's one way of doing it. That's not even going to impact you on any level to what this could possibly do.
Hey, you know, when you close your eyes, the black levels are really, really good. There's no Murrah effect or anything.
They're exceptionally good, yeah. But yeah, that's pretty much it, really. But it's like I say, it's not. I mean, obviously, this one is not going to be something that everybody's going to want to dive into. But for people that are interested in it, I can recommend it for that. For me personally, I won't spend the money on it because it's just not for me. But yeah, it's for certain specific people that are interested in this.
I showed it to my wife. She hasn't actually played it, but she does some minor meditation. You know, she's not a person that goes at it like to an extreme or anything. But when I showed her that we got a code for that she wants to try it. She hasn't had a chance yet. But you know, maybe the next show I'll have some perspective. I'd like to give it a shot too. But maybe give her a shot as someone with meditation experience, and you know, maybe you know, just kind of do some small commentary based on that. But I am very interested in your feedback is made me more interested, you know, because yeah, I think Anthony's point that you know, and we think of people who meditate as closing their eyes, and you know, like I picture them doing their hands up like that or whatever. That's probably an incorrect stereotype, but you know, maybe it's not. I really am ignorant on meditation, but the whole isolation element, we know that, just kind of speaking casually, that VR can isolate you and can take you somewhere else. And, you know, even if they have these beautiful environments, if it can calm you down and make you at peace, you know, I think that's really the objective. So I'm really interested. I'm glad you talked about it.
Yeah, it's like I say, it's something interesting to me, and I just thought I'd throw myself into it open-minded and just see what happens. And like I say, I can see the benefits to people that are interested in that kind of thing. The other thing I was going to mention, I don't know if anybody else wants to talk about this as well quickly. It was just I wanted to go back to Vertigo. We mentioned it on probably a couple of shows ago now, and I've played a little bit more of it since then, and I don't want to. Again, I don't want to be too negative about it. It's a good game, and the developer seems to have done everything right in this game when you're going through it, and he's listened to people that have commented on the development of this game, because they've had a demo out for a while, and the developers seem to have listened to all of that feedback. They've got various forms of locomotion in the game. They've even got this thing where you've got this wristwatch as well, so it tells you the actual time in real life, which is something that somebody mentioned on Reddit a while ago, and the developer incorporated it into this game almost like seemingly the next day. So these are all things, it seems like they've gone about this in a very good way. Again, my opinion of it hasn't really changed since the last time. I find it difficult to feel compelled to play this. It comes down to the fact that I'll progress through a little way, and part of it, I think, is the fact of the checkpoints seem a little bit inconsistent and sporadic. You seem to, if you die, occasionally you'll seem to have to go back a long way, and then other times you'll appear right where you die. And I don't know, it just feels a little bit like that's pushing me away slightly. I feel like if I die and I get sent back a long way, I feel like just calling it a night. I don't feel like playing anymore. So I just think, yeah, that's sort of the end of it. One thing I will say is, because the developers have done so well in listening to people, and the game itself is a good game, it's just not my kind of game overall. Maybe it's that kind of thing. But having said that, I will say I'm very interested in what these developers do in the future, because I think they've got the right attitude, and they've got a good sense of what makes good VR as well. So that's all I really wanted to say about Vertigo. I don't know if anybody else wants to talk about that.
No, I will. And I know Anthony has played it, and he'll want to chime in as well. But I'm similar with you. Like it something just isn't right for me, and I can't put my thumb on it. Just to kind of speak for exactly where I am. I've climbed the 2 ladders, and I've gone through the ductwork or whatever, where you kind of crouch down, and then you come out of that ductwork, you're in this kind of round room, and you can look down and you can fall a whole way, and there's a window, you break a window, and there are 2 computer terminals, and I don't even know what to do from there. There are no, and I think that's my biggest thing is, like, if I make a mistake, I die, and as you say, I'm often punished and have to go back a long way, and that includes just simply falling off of a ledge when you don't mean to, and then that coupled with not having a lot of direction, like no, and I'm not trying to be a a gamer that needs to have a marker pointing them in the right direction 100% of the time, but there was no explanation of the mechanics. I still don't know what this wand in my right hand that has the bubble, I still don't even know what that does. There's just there's a lot. It hasn't helped me at all. And I, as a person, I've played all the Dark Souls games and Bloodborne. I like a challenging game. This isn't because of difficulty. This is just because of kind of unnecessary confusion, of not knowing what I need to do. And maybe Anthony, maybe you've gotten past that, and you can tell me what to do next, and where you stand on it.
Well, I could tell you that part where you break the glass there, and there's the 2 computers there. I got to that part too, and I was like, what do I do? What do I do? And then I left, and I went back out to the circular area, and then I realized I went back into that part. There's a door that's in the corner, but you don't really notice it. It's like it kind of blends in. And then you see, the thing is, in the Vertigo game, they have these big doorknobs, these big green doorknobs that you push to open the door. And when you look over at that wall, you'll eventually see the knob, and you'll be like, oh, there's a door there. I didn't even realize there was a door there. What I'll say about Vertigo is, first off, I did a Let's Play of Vertigo where it's kind of like my first playthrough. I call it like a first play, basically. And I will go ahead and publish this Let's Play on Monday or whenever we release this this show. I'll go ahead and publish it right after that, so that if anybody wants to check out my playthrough, I enjoyed my time with this. Now, the only thing I'll say is I haven't played it again. I played it that first time. I've had fun with it. I definitely want to go back into it. What I've kind of been doing with my play sessions is I'll play a bunch of Vive stuff, and then I'll switch over to PSVR and I'll play a bunch of PSVR stuff, and then I'll switch back to Vive. And so sometimes I'll spend like 3 or 4 days just playing PSVR stuff, and then I'll switch back to the Vive, 3 or 4 days playing Vive stuff. And so I haven't got back into Vertigo since that first time, but I was enjoying it. I got to the first boss at the end of that first level, and I was battling the first boss, and it has like these tentacles that come out, and you take like your little lightsaber thing and you smack the tentacles, and then but it like shoots these little balls like out of its mouth, and then so you have to, your lightsaber thing, you got to switch it to the shield part, and then you kind of block those things with the shield. But I don't think I've been able to actually damage the boss. So I was stuck there, and I just stopped playing, but I had fun the whole time I was playing it. But what I like about it, and you'll see this on my Let's Play, and I think maybe Steve and Gary, because it's already up there, it's just private and it'll be published. So you guys might have seen my Let's Play, and I'm curious what you think about like comments that I was making as I was going through it. Because for me, I don't know, maybe it's, I'm easily amused, I guess you could put it, by lighting effects and just the vibe. For me, I don't know, it maybe it's a VR thing, but for me, one of the biggest things I get into with VR games especially is the vibe, the atmosphere, just this feel of being in this world. And it's, I'm easily amused by, you know, you give me nice little lighting effects, you give me these hallways that are really simple looking, but they're solid, and there's no framiness to it, and you give me a nice musical soundtrack that's kind of playing in the background. I really love the score that they have for this game. In the first level that I'm in, it's not doing a hell of a lot musically, but I know that as you get farther through the game, the music switches up. And I like, if you've seen the Vertigo trailer, I love the music for that. Whoever did the music is really cool. And I just have a good vibe. And then, so like Gary was saying, they added other locomotion abilities. Like there always was that teleporting, and you could teleport. And their teleporting method is one of the coolest teleporting methods I've seen, where you'll teleport somewhere, and then it's like you grab this circle and you like envelop it over yourself, and then you're there. I really like that teleporting mechanism. And then also you can take your side, you know, your squeezy buttons on the side, and just aim your controller in whatever direction you want to go, and then you squeeze a button and you go in that direction, locomotion style. And I'm actually mixing the two. Like I mostly do the locomotion thing, but every once in a while I teleport to get to another area. I just love the look of it. I love the sound of it. There's nothing super incredible about it. And then the other thing is, this is $15. It's not $30. It's not $20. It's $15. It's an amateur developer. I mean, not amateur. I mean, obviously they're professional developers, but not like a major company or anything like that. I think it's mostly one dude that made this game, and he might have had another guy do the music and a couple other people help with some little things here and there. Just real quick though.
Do you know what? If you know, please tell me what the bubble maker does.
It slows down time. The one which is on the teleporter as well.
Yeah,
that slows down time within that bubble. It's a mechanic they introduce a little bit later on. Actually, after you get to a certain part, you have to slow down the rotation of the fan. Okay. So yeah, it's for that really.
So I haven't needed it yet. That's why I'm like, what the hell does this do?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't get to a part that had the gun. And I kind of want the gun, because in the demo, when you have the gun, you can be in a hallway and you're like bending down and, you know, shooting the guys, and you really get into the game like that. And I haven't gotten to the gun yet.
Yeah, that's the gun part. I'm just a little way past where you are at the moment, Anthony. That boss, I just kept attacking the tentacles that keep coming at you and just blocking the balls of light, and then eventually you just defeat him. It does take a long time. It's quite tough. It took me a long time to get through that bit, but then after that you go up another level, and then basically the gun is almost immediately after that in a room, and I think it's sort of slowly introducing mechanics into it. So, Steve, some of the parts where you're not necessarily sure what you should be doing, and again, I didn't know what that bubble thing did until I got to a point where I actually had to use it, and yeah, it's just it's a tough one because I want to be really positive about it because, like I say, I think the developers have done so many good things in this game, and I just can't work out why I don't want to keep going back and playing it. I just don't understand.
It's
Yeah, I have Resident Evil 7 as an excuse, Gary. You don't.
Yeah, that's true.
sometimes there's just, games are, it's like sometimes I like this game, I don't like that game. You guys love this game, I don't like, it's just everybody has their own little flavor. But anyway, so let's see. Is there any other things that we've missed out on that we need to bring up?
Not really that I've got. The only other thing I was going to quickly mention, this is just something that I saw last week, and you guys may have seen it as well, but it was just a cool little demo that I saw, a video of somebody where they were experimenting with the Vive and the HoloLens. Now, this guy had created this just custom, very basic custom app, but it was almost like it wasn't a tilt brush app, but it was that kind of thing where you can create objects in 3D space. Now, what he did is he put this one guy in a Vive who was creating this figure of like a robot type figure out of blocks within the Vive, similar to an environment tilt brush. So it was just in a room, he was creating this block. And then another user was wearing a HoloLens. And what he was able to do, he created a piece of software that could sort of bridge the gap between these two things. And the wearer of the HoloLens was actually able to see in the room that the Vive user was making this model, actually see the model this Vive user was making. So it was just a cool, I mean, it makes you think of some possibilities that of where this could go, because the guy that made this video, he was talking about how somebody in VR who's making this model and they want to show you a specific part of this model, it's not easy for somebody else who's not in VR to see that. But if they were wearing the HoloLens and they weren't even in VR, they were just in real life with the HoloLens, they could see this model. The Vive user could point to a certain area of this model, and the HoloLens user could then sort of lean in and see this in a better level of detail. So it was just an interesting thing. I don't know, I mean, I can't think of any particular applications for this at the moment, but I'm sure there's so many possibilities of this thing. And it was just an interesting video to watch. I don't know if either of you've seen that.
I didn't see it.
Neither did I.
No, it's definitely worth watching. It's definitely worth going back and trying to find that. I'll post a link. I'll tell you, I'll put a link actually in the bottom of this video as well.
Okay.
Also, one last little news, like if we're going to go back to the news stories, one thing we didn't touch on was the new Nintendo president, Tatsumi Kimishima, said he revealed that Nintendo is in the process of studying virtual reality, and they're trying to figure out, he talked about like the comfort level of virtual reality and being able to play virtual reality for long periods of time without having any kind of discomfort. And he basically was saying that once we figured it out where we feel like our users will be able to play for lengthy periods of time with no discomfort, that Nintendo is possibly going to pursue virtual reality. And he said that he didn't rule it out that the Nintendo Switch might have something to do with virtual reality. Obviously, we know with the resolution of the Nintendo Switch, it's not going to happen with that. But we've also seen with the DS, there was the DSi. With the 3DS, there was the new 3DS. And so Nintendo is not against coming out with a slightly improved version of the same thing that might offer some slight extra capabilities. So there is a certain there's a possibility that maybe 2 years from now, there's the Switch Plus, and the Switch Plus has a much higher resolution screen, and it's got a special Gear VR type thing that it can slide into. And then that's how Nintendo will enter the world of virtual reality. But we don't know if that's actually going to be the case, but it is good news that Nintendo is looking at this seriously and they're investigating it. So they have their R&D departments taking a close look at this. Steve, did you happen to see this story? Any thoughts about the Nintendo?
I saw a headline, and yeah, I don't have much to add. The Switch isn't going to do anything, and I think it's Nintendo's way of saying, yeah, we're looking at VR, because a lot of people are doing VR, and from a company perspective, we have to say we're looking into it. Just like Apple says they're looking into it, you know, supposedly they're putting a emphasis on AR. They think AR is the future. So I think everybody and their mom is quote unquote looking into it, but I think it's a much smaller subset of people who are actually actively doing something in it.
Yeah, I agree. Actually, I think they're just saying it to keep people interested. But I mean, unlike you, I think there might be. I don't think it's impossible that they could do this with the Switch. I mean, I know it's a very low resolution screen, and they could sort of force VR into this thing. It'd be very, very basic VR if they did it, and it wouldn't look great. It wouldn't be good VR, but I don't think it's impossible they could do this and just try and sort of capitalize a little bit on the hype around VR at the moment. But yeah, personally, I think it's just something to say, just so that people will take them seriously and try and not dismiss them as being in this latest wave of technology, really.
Yeah, I don't think they're lying about investigating it. I guarantee you they are investigating it. If you're in the video game industry, if you're not investigating VR and AR, you're making a huge mistake.
I believe they have you know, some labs and a few people assigned to it. I don't mean to say that they're not doing that, but there's a difference between doing that and doing some real behind the scenes stuff with no real top level push to get something released versus the companies like, say, Valve and HTC and Oculus who are outputting stuff. Like there's a difference, and you know, I don't believe that Nintendo has a heavy push in it like maybe say Microsoft might right now. I think Microsoft's probably way ahead of them. Apple's probably way ahead of them. You know, Samsung is probably way ahead of all of them. So like, if you're a tech company, you're probably experimenting in VR in some way, but that's not to say that you may have a product in 2 years. Like I don't think Nintendo will. Could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong. I want more stuff on the market, but that's just my take. I think it's mostly corporate speak and PR.
I'm going to go out on a limb, and I will say in the year 2019, Nintendo will have a VR product of some type on the market. Book it.
I hope so.
I said in the next 2 years. So that's 17 and 18. I didn't say anything about 19.
All righty. Is there any other last little news stories that we need to bounce into? One quick little thing is PlayStation launch bundles. We were kind of talking about how that guy from Sony was saying, you know, the PSVR is going to be the main platform and the PlayStation is going to be the peripheral and all that. And one of the problems with Sony is getting, you know, where can you buy these things? And supposedly launch bundles are going to be coming. The regular launch bundle that includes PlayStation VR Worlds, that is supposed to come back. And then there's also going to be a new launch bundle that has Rush of Blood. The only downside is they're going to cost this same exact price. And Rush of Blood is a $20 game and PlayStation VR Worlds is a $40 game. And you probably want both of these games because they're both really good PSVR games. So my recommendation is get the bundle that has VR Worlds and go ahead and buy Rush of Blood separately for $20. Or you might find it on sale, like Best Buy had it for like $10, which is a steal. That game, first of all, Rush of Blood should not be a $20 game. I don't know why it was a $20 game, but it's easily the best value out there.
Don't let them know. It may be on sale now. So right now there is a big PlayStation VR I don't know if they call it flash sale, but a lot of titles have a good discount on them. And I don't know, I can't see the Rush of Blood price because I have Rush of Blood that I bought from the store, the PlayStation store. So it may be included, and if it's $10 now, get it. It's easily well worth $10. No question, no regrets. I agree with your point. Like if you're going to pick up a bundle, it's best to pick up the Worlds bundle due to that alone, because Worlds is still $40. I've not seen it discounted even in these sales, whereas I've seen Rush of Blood discounted at least once, maybe twice.
Yeah, I was always hoping to wait around for Worlds and buy it really cheap on eBay once everybody got tired of it. But because of this whole PSVR shortage, it just never happened. You can't, you'll save like $1 if you buy the used version on eBay. You're not saving anything. So it's kind of weird how this shortage has changed the resale market for even just games and stuff.
Well, though also, and I'm not sure it'll even change now that supply is trickling back in, because as well as anybody with a VR that demoing it to other people is an important aspect. And that's what VR Worlds is very good at. It's very good demo material. It's some of the best demo material for the PlayStation VR. So I see people hanging on to it. I have people going, well, I'm not going to play this anymore, really, but nah, I'm not going to trade it in because GameStop's only going to give me $2.25 anyway. Let me hold on to this. And, I think that's what you're going to see is people are keeping it for demo material.
Yep, and they really need to do like a demo disc #2 and put that scene from Resident Evil with the cop, put that in there. Oh my God, that's incredible. Best human in VR confirmed. Unbelievable. I just can't recommend that enough. But anyway, guys, that's pretty much going to wrap it up for episode 21. I apologize. I was clearing my throat a couple of times. I'm dealing with a little bit of a cold here, and so I apologize for that. But basically, on the Let's Play front, we do have some new Let's Plays that are going to be coming up. I'm going to have the Vertigo one that I'll be popping. Steve recently did a Rush of Blood Let's Play. Gary, of course, did his Ropes and Dragons Let's Play. So we got a lot of content out there that you guys can check out. So check that out. And if you have any questions, comments, feedback of any kind, you can always email us at vrroundtable@gmail.com. And that's basically going to wrap it up for episode 21. And we'll see you guys next week. Later.
See you next time. Bye.
Thanks for watching and listening, guys. Bye.